All right. So today is going to be another one that is so intriguing. I'm probably going to get lots of views in the algorithm just because this is kind of a critique here. Guys, don't go like aggro, excuse me, all like aggro in the comments, okay? Because, excuse me again, I am not a philosopher. I do like philosophy, and I'm also in the process of learning. I just enjoy talking about just different topics from a Christian perspective. I am an evangelist. If you don't know who I am, my name is Samuel David Spoonhour, and I've been evangelizing for a few years, and I have lots of conversations with people, uh, real people who actually exist and aren't just on Reddit all day. And so, because of that, sometimes I will get into some interesting conversations in comments because I don't like comment wars, which is what essentially I call them, with what I call keyboard warriors, because I don't have time, honestly. I feel called to go up to people person to person and have a genuine conversation. Comments are fun, but at the end of the day, it's not as powerful as a one-on-one conversation. And I'm sure basically everyone can agree with me on that. Maybe you can't. Maybe you're just like, nah, brah. Honestly, you need to just lock in and focus on your comments. But sometimes I'll respond, sometimes real quick stuff. But I got into this conversation with someone that I made a video on my channel, The Gospel Call, or it's not really mine anymore. It's basically belongs to my church, and so it's under that. So I'm running it, of course, and I made a video pretty much called "Evolution is False, Prove Me Wrong." YouTube didn't necessarily appreciate it, so it kind of just didn't get very many views, at least on YouTube. I think it did actually pretty well on Instagram, but I've checked for like comments, and it got like some Christians interested, but same on TikTok. It's like, yeah, you put that stuff out, they just kind of like, psh, because they believe that evolution is a fact, and that's okay. If you disagree with me, I don't think that they should be taking views away from me just because I disagree. And that's okay. At the end of the day, I'm here to glorify Christ and to have these. I believe it's godly to talk about these things and in a calm manner, and to give an answer to every man that asks of you of the hope that lies within you. So, so Data Forge 2745 is the guy I kind of got into this conversation with. And I just kind of wanted to read to you one of his most recent comments, and then I'm actually going to reply live. And I just wanted to show you some of his arguments. Of course, I don't believe in Neo-Darwinian evolution. I believe in adaptation 100%. How far it goes, not still 100% certain. But I do not believe in that the fact that all animals are from one ancestor. I think that there is one creator, one designer behind them all. And I think that is the best inference to the evidence that we have, is simply that. And so I'm going to be throwing out Occam's razor a bit. Again, if you guys disagree, that's okay. Just give me some comments. I'll try to read them. I usually do read them, actually, but I just don't always comment back because sometimes they're just ridiculous. So, but I'm going to be critiquing Neo-Darwinian evolution. Okay. So just to get that straight, just so you guys understand that. So, let me read this to you. This is on the channel, The Gospel Call. So, all right. So this is the last comment. All right. We got talking a bit about radiometric dating. I have issues with radiometric dating. But so that's why he says the ages come from radiometric dating, which is not measured based on the age of the Earth. It's based on how fast radioactive materials decays. And so one of my, hypotheses is that current radiometric dating is with the assumption of I put the age of the Earth, but I really meant to say Neo-Darwinian evolution, or the idea that like it's not even the case. It's not even They don't assume it necessarily like that. It's more like I have seen instances of where radiometric dating for things that we know for a fact are actually very young, something I brought up, ends up making it out to be like extremely old, just because of the nature of carbon. It's actually really hard to completely understand its radioactive decay because it's possibly very, very possibly dynamic, or other things can influence it. So it's like if radiometric dating is actually not really a great way to like know the age of things. Honestly, testing trees is so much more accurate because you can test their rings. That has it has much better, I guess, accuracy to what you're, kind of what you assume, or I guess that would be precision according to what you assume. Accuracy in general, it's just a lot more accurate. It does have some issues, from what I understand. Now, I am not a geologist or a scientist for that matter, so don't just go off of my word, guys. Do your own research. So he's just like, no matter how they're actually dated, right? The issue is actually the order of the fossils, right? Because he was talking about certain like dino-like birds and just how they kind of fall in this order of like, oh, this one's more. The ones that are essentially newer are more bird-like. The older ones are more dino-like. Right? The fact that they show clear evolutionary progress or progression, no matter how they're dated, I don't see any reason for them to appear in that order, besides them having actually evolved, of course, right? And that's totally fair. But the problem is you have to identify what is Neo-Darwinian evolution and then what is adaptation, right? Because you could say adaptation is evolution. That's, for instance, in Darwin's book, that is something that he clearly observes, that I agree with, right? I agree with the birds on the Galapagos Island. Those are birds who have adapted to their environment. They're essentially not a bird. I could say that, right, this is like a hybrid bird, right? A mix, and we're going to get to this, essentially what would essentially convince me of a like macro level of evolution, not just like micro and like, and this is so difficult because there are complexities to all this. But anyways, what makes something reptile, bird, because I brought this up, like, you kind of have to identify, like, is this a reptile? Is this a bird? Right? Or in between its traits, right? That's pretty straightforward. Our Archaeopteryx, trying to pronounce that, has a fairly even mix of bird traits and reptile traits. I don't disagree. I agree there are reptile traits, right? But I also agree that, for instance, like a dog has traits similar to a cat. I don't know if you know this, but we have more DNA or higher percentage of DNA closer to pigs than we do to gorillas. Answer me that if Neo-Darwinian evolution is true, right? You might find a good scientific evidence for that, maybe some way down the future. But the problem is that is speculation. That's not science, right? We have current empirical evidence that we are more like pigs. Okay, the speculation is that we are more like gorillas. It's just not true. Empirically, it is untrue that we are more like gorillas than we are like pigs. Anyways, I don't know how you get past that. But then as we go later in the fossil record, animals with more bird traits start to appear. What if, and this is one of my critiques, what if those are birds with reptile-like features? This is my problem. What if those are actually just birds with like really long beaks or really sharp teeth? What if they are dinosaurs with bird-like traits? Like, how do you actually know? And this is the problem, because you essentially make the claim, and this is really my challenge. Give me evidence that they're actually, like, empirical data, not forensic, not speculation. All right. I'm talking about empirical evidence, that things you can test today. I can give you empirical scientific evidence that there is reason to believe there is a designer for the universe. Okay. You cannot give me this again. Understand this point. You cannot give me empirical evidence that DNA is literally changing from, like, oh, the blueprint for a reptile into a bird. I understand. Those things die. So technically, it's impossible to actually empirically verify Neo-Darwinian evolution. Maybe we can speed up the process in a lab, right? You cannot do this in a lab. I'm not just saying this. I'm saying this from like many, like not just many scientists. Okay, any scientist that has actually like really dived deep and has a PhD, right? I know some like lower level scientists would say, no, you can test this in a lab. It's just not true. Like then test it in a lab and show me your methodology. Show me DNA. Show me DNA actually converting into another type of animal, like say reptile into bird. But otherwise, this is still adaptation. This is still just a bird adapting to a rough environment. Okay. So anyways, even today, there's debate as whether, right, the Arctopithecus, I'm not going to pronounce that correctly, should be classified as a bird or a reptile. And listen, I get it. All right. If that is an argument, but it's a hypothesis. We're going to go to this. Okay. This is one very specific example. All right. Audubon. It's an org. It's .org. I'm assuming it's credible. Okay. I'm just assuming. I'm not like digging real deep. All right. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong and like, oh no, this is not credible. Okay. All right. But this is my problem. Okay. Now I understand this is just a magazine. This is not necessarily like an article from a scientist. Okay. But this is the way that they explain it. All right. Is like right here. Okay. These days, it's common knowledge that birds are living dinosaurs. If they're dinosaurs, then they're not birds. You know what I'm saying? I know what they're trying to say. But I'm going against like let's clearly define these terms, right? I understand what they're saying, but not everyone necessarily would. I know you're saying evolved, right? Victorian naturalists proposed the notion after spotting similarities between dinosaur fossils and contemporary bird skeletons, right? But the theory was controversial until the 1990s when thousands of feathered dinosaur fossils were discovered. Okay. That's the thing. It's like I want to know, are those actually dinosaurs or are those in fact birds? Say you see this like transition over time. Okay. Man, this is the hard thing because I myself need to like deep like dive into this further, right? Because I don't actually know. I don't know as much as necessarily even these people would. But the problem is that this is not empirical science, right? We notice similarities. Or like, we saw these with feathers. That's great. That's great. You saw feathers on another animal. Okay. There are dogs who have fur. It doesn't mean it's a cat. Okay. We see hooves on different animals. Doesn't mean that they evolved from each other or have the same ancestor. Right. A wolf turning into like a chihuahua, like that even looks crazy. It's like wolf to chihuahua. That's crazy. Right. Now, maybe there actually is a specific type of what we would essentially call a dinosaur, which actually like adapted into these tiny little, right. These little guys, hummingbirds. I think that's a hummingbird. That's not a hummingbird. No. Oh, maybe it is. Like essentially adapted into those little guys because, right, it, like say, I still have issues with the dates and like the age of the earth and all this, but But basically, like, say it's a more rough environment, and so like, bigger, sharper teeth are needed. We see that in certain animals, like certain animals for certain birds for like picking up other birds, like, say, you got falcons, you got hawks, you got eagles, like they got their sharp talons, they have really sharp beaks. Like a peregrine falcon is extremely fast and catches prey just like nobody's business. Okay. It's practically the fastest animal on the planet, not fastest land animal, of course. So, but other birds don't have that, right? That's, of course, in the degree of adaptation, right? And what is necessary for essentially that bird to survive. I agree with that. Okay. But show me a lizard essentially turning into, like in a lab, like show me this, like empirically verify that this is actually a thing. Otherwise, I just will not believe that this is actually a thing. And I realize that's practically impossible. Maybe and this is the thing, I'm trying to be open-minded here. Maybe someday you can actually give me empirical verification that this actually is a thing. You do see like reptiles turning into birds and gorillas turning into humans, and you can, I think it was a mosquito. You can essentially like recreate that in a lab. You can do that with adaptation. But currently, right now, scientists can't even recreate the origin of life. And this is my other critique, is like, and you guys can read this article. This is from Audubon, Get to Know the Ancient Birds That Lived During the Age of the Dinosaurs. It's not necessarily trying to be super scientific, and that's okay. I understand when I looked at it. And again, I want to actually like dive deep. Oh, I'm going to actually respond to this guy. I was going to show you guys my response. I want to do like a deep dive into this stuff even further. And like, are there other like, more bird-like fossils during that time? That's intriguing. Are all of the, and this is the problem too, is that I have serious issues with the ages. So that would mess up the order big time, which was one of my critiques to him. But this is really my biggest critique. If currently in a lab we can't necessarily recreate the origin of life, how in the world essentially do you even know how animals evolved into others? It's just speculation. This is why there are actually a lot of scientists right now just like kind of like, guys, this isn't good enough. Like it has not shown, like you can't find essentially a dead animal or a dead transition type that's like literally mixed, like literally not an imperfect mix, really, an imperfect mix, unable to live version of essentially like two different types of animals. Like that's the thing that I want to see. That's my challenge in this video. I want to see a transition type. All right. I don't want to see one type of bird or one other type of dinosaur. I want to see the in between. All right. I want to see the ones that didn't survive because they were in the process of evolving. And you say, well, time is in his favor. Time and chance. Time and chance, first of all, are not a driving force. All right. So we kind of have to assume that God is essentially deciding, or something really powerful out there is deciding for this to happen, this process, which, I can grant that God can do that. But does that actually happen? You have to literally pretty much recreate it in a lab to empirically verify it. Not even necessarily in a lab, I would say even. There is no mathematical formula for Neo-Darwinian evolution. This is the problem. It is because you actually can't really show it. Oops, keep hitting my mic. And again, if you guys disagree, that's cool. Show me mathematical formulas that actually give us an idea that yes, in fact, life does this. Like it actually changes to, and some might say entropy because it's going to more complexity. that's not, I don't, maybe you can go off of that. I don't think that it necessarily goes in that direction, because I think, in my opinion, that the universe actually it's very intriguing. And in some instances, it's being directed. And so entropy is kind of like energy is put into the universe. And so because of that, then entropy goes, of course, there's even more entropy, but it's kind of like an air conditioner. Like, if God puts in energy, you can actually have the entropy removed, even though it's not actually removed. It's just adding more complexity. But an infinite being could easily do that if he wanted to. But back to kind of evolution. So basically what I'm going to respond is like, yes, I do. Let's see. First of all, actually, thank you. Let's see. Actually, I hadn't responded to him for a while, so I'm going to say that. Let's see. Again, want to apologize for my late response. And I already told him I'm very busy. And to say, basically, I think that adaptation is still a perfectly good answer for what is shown. They are, I'll put probably just birds adapting to their environment. Oh, my M doesn't always work. Environment, just like a peregrine, I'm probably not spelling this right, peregrine falcon to a hummingbird. There it is, peregrine falcon. Let's see. One is more dino-like, and one is not. I don't think I needed to capitalize that, but yeah, and so like what I said, like let's see, it's how do you spell Occam's razor? Let's see. Let me put this in quotes. The simplest answer is usually the best answer. We see similarities. I am very slow at typing right now because I'm focused on you guys and then this. So you're like, why you're so stinking slow at typing? Normally I'm actually a lot faster, but let's see. We see similarities between other animals, such as a moose and a dog, but we do not say they evolved. Well, actually, technically we do actually, or they do. Do not say they. Oh, maybe actually you would say that a moose and a dog are close relatives. Maybe that's not a good example. I'll just say it like in a general term. It's not always the best way because you're going to reply back, can you give me specifics? And yet we do not say they are close relatives. But of course, they all have the same relative in evolutionary biology. It just seems simpler to say that the designer was the same. And oops, what you doing, buddy? I'm sure you guys are just absolutely enjoying this right now. It's probably so boring because I didn't even switch my camera. But yeah, and that's basically it. I think I might answer a little bit like let me just see. Let's see. What was the other thing I said? Like, let's see. We are closer. I'm going to get a response back if I say this, but we are closer to pigs in DNA than apes. But correlation, I love saying this because it's used a lot, but correlation does not mean causation. That's not science. Can everyone please remember that? All right. This is my problem with Neo-Darwinian evolution. This even like Ray Comfort will like go on to like campuses and start asking questions, and it's like, yes, but how, can you give me right now evidence that like empirical evidence? But then like that's great. Okay, you see some forensic evidence for it. That's cool. But it's not a theory until you give me empirical evidence that this is actually a thing. Anyways, sorry. I'm ranting. I'm gonna make a lot of people upset with this video, and that's okay. You know, it's not my goal to make people upset. I want to have like proper discussion. Let's see, but correlation doesn't mean causation. A speculation is simply what it is. A hypothesis, not a theory. Let's see. I think there are some interesting arguments for evolution. I'm making a long one here. But it is not at the level of I think it's empirical science yet. Let's see. Thank you for the discussion. I will read your last comment, but I am done for now. God bless you and have an amazing day. Awesome. Exclamation point. You know, And that's one thing I want to kind of end on is like, guys, we don't need to be jerks about this, okay? You may completely like disagree with me and think I'm just the dumbest person in the universe. Don't treat me like I'm not a human. I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to dehumanize you, because ultimately, if you're atheistic, you're probably humanistic. And so you would agree with what I just said. Like, don't take away the fact that I'm still a fellow human. And ultimately, we have thoughts and desires and opinions of ourselves. And yet somehow still the world can work. The world still goes round. I would say that's because of God at the end of it all. But, that's another conversation for a different day. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This was a bit longer. But again, if you got thoughts, please share them with me. Just please try to remember, like, guys, we are humans, okay? Let's respect each other in this. You may completely disagree. Don't make YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram toxic. You do not need to do that, okay? It is not healthy for you. It is not healthy for me. That's why I will say, like, dude, I apologize for my late response, because I do want to see, first of all, as a Christian, I want to see this guy in heaven someday. I don't know if he's a Christian or not. I don't know. But that would be super cool. Like, hey, dude, I was that like Data Forge guy who was like messaging you and like, oh, bro, that's so cool. And then we start having conversation, and he might still think that evolution is true. I don't know. Then we can have a conversation with God, and like he could, tell us both and like what's going on really. I think it's more complex, and I think it's intriguing. I think adaptation maybe goes further than what we can necessarily observe today, but that's just a speculation. That's just a hypothesis. You would have to give evidence for that. So this is getting a little long. I'm just going to kind of end it. Thank you again all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell me if you like this type of comment. Have a great day, and hope to see you on the next one.